As I am an old man, I have very fond memories of my old 8-bit Amstrad CPCs. I got one of these one Christmas morning and it started me on my fascination with all things computer game related. So here, on Noob Game Reviews, we'll be looking at early 8-bit computer games as well, usually in batches of 3 or 4 together, as they are usually small games given the memory limitations of the time. Today on Noob Game Reviews we are going to be looking at the very first 3 release games in the much loved Dizzy franchise, starting with Dizzy, the ultimate cartoon adventure, moving on to Treasure Island Dizzy, and then Fast Food Dizzy. Dizzy was created by Andrew and Philip Oliver, a couple of bedroom game designers in the 1980s. They then founded the publishing company Codemasters, which is still producing titles today. However, back in the 80s they started by producing budget, pocket money friendly titles, and their first game under the Codemasters banner was Super Robin Hood. They went on to create such games as Fruit Machine Simulator, Grand Prix Simulator and BMX Simulator. There were a lot of simulator games in their back catalogue. So they didn't get typecast with just plain old simulator game creators, they decided to branch out and Dizzy was created. Dizzy is an egg, and this made writing game reviews in computer magazines at the time a minefield for egg-based puns. However, here at Noob Game Reviews we are far above such lazy writing. The usual baddie in these games is an evil wizard called Zax, and he's usually kidnapped Daisy or put the rest of the Orc folk under his spell, you know, the usual fairy tale things that evil wizards get up to. Most of the games are standard platform side-scrolling puzzle games, but there are some exceptions, and one of those is the third game that we'll be looking at today. However, let's start at the beginning, with Dizzy, the ultimate cartoon adventure on the Amstrad CPC. This game was released in June 1987 on the CPC and the Spectrum, and a little later on the Commodore 64. The Oliver twins decided the name Dizzy because of the way the character jumps and tumbles, and the design came about as it's easy and relatively simple to draw an egg with simple face and boxing gloves. The game starts with a nice loading screen, and look at that 8-bit Amstrad disk loading command. I've left it in because of the nostalgic feeling it gives me. Happy days. And then it's into the game. This game sets a scene for many of the Dizzy games to follow. Side scrolling, flip screen, lots of jumping with lots of things that can kill you, and if it moves, usually it kills you. In this game, bats, apples, yep that's right, apples, skeletons, you name it, it will kill you. You do start off with 3 lives, which is a godsend in this game, and not representative of what normally happens in the series, but more on that later. And this game, like the basics for most of the Dizzy games, is to collect various items, to collect puzzles which will enable you to collect items again to create a potion to defeat the evil Zax the Wizard. Phew. Some of the jumps in this game are quite hard and need precision placement to Dizzy. It also doesn't help that when Dizzy himself lands, he'll quite happily roll around after landing, and it often means it's quite frustrating and you will die quite a lot. The music in this version of the game makes use of the Amstrad chipsets very well, and this was a theme with the Codemaster games of the time. The Amstrad in my opinion is a very underrated machine and holds up well when compared to the Commodore 64 and the Spectrum. Right, on to game 2, Treasure Island Dizzy, and more loading goodness. This game was originally going to be called Dizzy 2, but the twins decided to move away from naming the game numerically and gear towards a more unique way of naming each game, which will carry on as the games continue to be developed. Notice the speech at the title screen. Again, this is a firm favourite of the Oliver twins and quite sophisticated at the time at the game's release in 1988. The game starts you off, shipwrecked on a desert island. No worries, let's go to the right and see if an egg can swim. Ah, no, and yes, there it is. That's the major difference between this and the first Dizzy game. Dizzy only has 1 life, so no matter how far you get, 1 wrong move and it's back to the beginning. So there are two goals in this game. The first one is to get off the island, and the second is to collect 30 gold coins which are scattered around the island. They are hidden behind objects and some of them are in plain sight. The inventory system has changed from the first game where you can now carry 3 items instead of 1. However, it is a sliding inventory system, meaning that whatever is at the top will automatically drop when you need to pick something else up. It's a bit of a pain. If you finally manage to find a snorkel and you're in the water, then you need to pick something up, don't drop the snorkel. It doesn't end well. The graphics are fantastic and the music is still memorable to this day. The puzzles are difficult and the game is known to be one of the most frustrating in the Dizzy franchise. You're a lot better than me if you managed to complete it back in the day with hidden traps and everything is out to get you. It will take major skill to complete. The playability is fantastic and you will return to it day after day to try and complete it. It's not bad for a £2.99 title and I wish more titles these days followed suit. So moving on to the third Codemasters Dizzy's release, and this is Fast Food Dizzy, and this hit the budget shelves in April 1989. And in a move away from the previous platform games, Dizzy has moved into a more arcade Pac-Man type affair, where the aim of the game is to eat all the food and avoid the bad guys. The game itself was remarkably completed in 17 days, which is testimony to the slick operation Codemasters had at the time, and it's a far cry from today's 18 to 24 month lead time for titles. An interesting point in this game, it was due to be a marketing game for the Happy Eater range of restaurants, but when that relationship broke down, Dizzy was placed as the main character, and the third Gizzy Dame was created. You can select to start your game any level between 1 and 20, with 30 levels being in total. In 16-bit systems there were 40 levels however. And after you complete the game you are sent back to replay, however the levels are upside down. After a certain number of levels the player is treated to a little cartoon break, which is similar to the Pac-Man series, and it's on with the game. You start this game with 3 lives and extra lives become available throughout the game. When you die, you have to replay the entire level again, so be careful. This is a far cry from the puzzle platform games of the first Dizzy games, and it marked the first outing of a number of diverse Dizzy games just like Puzzle Dizzy or Dizzy Down the Rapids. Some are better than others, but that's a story for another time. The game is presented well with catchy soundtracks and animations, and it's a great little puzzle in its own right. It's a worthy addition to the Dizzy franchise. So there we have it, the very first Dizzy games that were released. These paved the way for the next few years. We will be touching on the next Dizzy games at a later date, but in my opinion these games are excellent. Sorry, I had to slip at least one in. Thanks for watching, don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time on Noob Game Reviews.